This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Don't forget to view our spoiler-free companion video on our Half Past Podcast channel on YouTube. Half Past Podcast. This is episode 53, the movie review of Doctor Strange. We will also be discussing the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them trailer. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot Ian Jones.
Oh, it's good to be back. I last weekend I got my sister married.
Yeah, I saw the pictures, at least some of the pictures.
Beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. That is the place to do it if you're gonna do it. I'll tell you. And
Colorado's so gorgeous, man.
It is, yeah. It really is, especially comparatively. Like, Arizona's beautiful, but then you go to certain parts of Colorado, and it's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
And I'll tell you, with this marriage, the god Owataka won't be destroying any of the Pacific Islands for 50 years, so there's that.
What? What the hell,
man? He's appeased.
Oh, man.
Owataka.
So our trailer for this week is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I'm going to be very annoyed by saying that whole title, like, a lot. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Okay.
Oh.
So this is another entry into the Harry Potter universe, right?
Correct, yes.
Now, I have not seen... Like, I've seen probably all the Harry Potters up to, like, the last two. So the part 1 and part 2. But the thing is like, this is when I had my tonsils out.
Correct. And yes. You don't remember.
I don't remember any of it. I was so drugged up on painkillers during that time period because you let me borrow. You had all of them.
I gave you all of them.
Yeah, and I watched all of them. And like, but I don't remember anything about Harry Potter at all. So I have no idea how this relates to anything.
Well,
for the rest of this.
You know, it isn't going to relate to anything. I mean, it's 50 years before Harry Potter, so I think you're going to be okay there. It's going to it's going to introduce the Wizarding World to America, which was something that was only, I think, mentioned one time in passing in 7 stories.
Okay.
Where J.K. actually mentions that there are American witches.
Okay.
Who show up at an event, but they don't get a description other than that. So, I mean, this is one of London's wizards coming to America.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you'll be just fine.
I sure hope so, because it's like, I really was hoping that I didn't need to watch all of them, because I'm just like, man, I am so far behind. I don't remember any of them. So I was definitely kind of concerned about the whole
I mean, with anything, you could just watch the first one, and I think you would be okay. This gets into more of the magical creatures. You know, so over the course of those first 8 movies, I mean, there were a lot of different magical creatures, but there are even more and some really different ones in this one.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't think you'll be lost. And they never tell the stories that way anyway. You know, I mean, they always... You know, I thought they made them pretty accessible.
Okay.
You know, even throughout. So I think you'll be fine there.
Well, that's good. The only thing I can think of is, like, seeing that this character, this dopey fat guy character that keeps popping up through the whole trailer... Yeah. I don't know what the heck that's about, but that's a character we've seen numerous times before.
Well, at least it's not Josh Gad. Oh, that could have happened.
That would have made it automatically worse, although Colin Farrell is in the movie also. So,
Yeah, well, you know, Yeah. I wish everyone could see the look on your face. the really disapproving. Sitting on a bench. This is too good to be light beer. I think people are lying to me.
I think the thing is that like it's not like I don't like Colin Farrell. He just shows up in a lot of bad movies. And I don't necessarily think it's his fault.
No.
But it doesn't bode well, right? Like it's kind of a weird thing. Yeah, he's got this serious face.
Serious face. Yeah, well, he's going to be serious in this one.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to see how it works out, man. It's just, I don't know. I'm definitely interested in watching it. I'm just glad that I don't necessarily need to experience the rest of Harry Potter.
You don't? No. Not at all. You know, the comment I have to make, which isn't even related to this movie, but you know, we got a lot of really good trailers. I thought, at least I did. You know, so I was at AMC, and they always start off with, you know, like they have several versions of this, and it usually gets updated every year, where they're talking about finding the exits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know, they have scenes from like X-Men and Maze Runner and just like popular stuff when they give the pre-warning.
Mm-hmm.
But what was cool was that Ghost in the Shell was like, this time was taking over, that was like distorting in and taking over those warnings.
Oh, nice.
So it was a nice little teaser for Scarlett Johansson and Ghost in the Shell, and I thought that was awesome. And then we got some really cool trailers, and I think, and strangely enough, you know, so we got to see the last Star Wars one, which I'm not gonna lie, the last trailer for Rogue One really makes me tear up.
I think that's what sucks about me is I went to Harkins and I did not get the Star Wars trailer.
Oh,
I did not get it. It was so weird. So I still haven't seen the new Rogue One trailer.
Oh, geez, it's really good, and
that's what everybody keeps telling me.
Yeah, it's going to be tough not to root for these guys who you would have to imagine are not going to survive.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I think the thing that had the audience buzzing, and I wonder if you got this, was the trailer for Power Rangers.
I didn't get that either.
Oh,
you know, and people were also saying that, some of my coworkers were saying that the Wonder Woman trailer was supposed to come in front of this too.
Yes,
and I didn't get that either. So man, I don't know what the hell happened.
Get?
I know, right? Wow, I didn't get very many trailers at all. I got the Logan trailer.
Okay.
So I got that one, but that was like it.
That looks like such a buzzkill. And know, maybe that's a good way to...
We'll talk about that one some other podcast.
Right. Sure. Well, yeah, if anything, yes, I'm going to suggest to everyone, if you can, look up the Power Rangers trailer. It's really cool, and you can figure out about halfway through that it's the Power Rangers because someone mentions the name, but it's really different. It's exciting, and I mean, it had like the whole movie theater was like, "You got to be kidding me!" But I mean, damn, I feel like you got gypped on seeing some cool trailers.
Yeah, I didn't see any of those trailers at all. I was, it's funny because people have been telling me that all these trailers are going to come out in front of this movie, but I didn't see any of them. It was like either ones that I've already seen, and the only one I saw that was new was the Logan one.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
All right. So, Fantastic Beasts.
And where to find them.
Yes.
All right, so you got anything else for that?
Nope, that's it.
All right,
I said nothing about the trailer. We're gonna watch it anyway. So
yeah, we're gonna watch it anyway.
We'll talk about it soon. All
right, let's take a break, and then we'll get into Doctor Strange.
Cool.
A former neurosurgeon embarks on a journey of healing only to be drawn into the world of the mystic arts. This movie is directed by Scott Derrickson, who also did The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Sinister. Did you see any of those?
No. Well, yes, The Day the Earth Stood Still. I'm kind of surprised he got this movie off of that resume.
Right? Because when you look at his resume, a lot of them have to do with more of almost like horror type movies. So I thought it was really weird that he would get that, and even with that said, like the movies that he's done, you look at his like Rotten Tomatoes rating, it's really low. So because his movies just like they aren't that great, and I doubt if they have anything to do with his directing ability. Because I mean, the one that I definitely have seen is The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I think that one is actually the movie's just like it's a horror movie that's about exorcism, so it's nothing special about it. But I think like the way it was directed and filmed was actually pretty cool. So,
I mean, obviously someone saw something along the way to give him a really big budget movie.
Oh yeah. So he's starring Benedict Cumberbatch, of course, as Dr. Stephen Strange. He's in the Hobbit movies, Star Trek Into Darkness, and of course Black Mass.
What? Black Mass? What is
Black
Mass?
He was Bulger's brother.
Oh, geez. Okay, you're right.
We've rated this movie.
I know. We rated this movie. Wait, we didn't. No, we didn't release it though, did we?
No, we released Black Mass.
Oh.
We definitely released Black Mass. That was not one of our better podcasts.
No, it wasn't. I think that was when you and I unilaterally decided to not do those kind of movies.
Yeah, not
anymore.
do the drama type movies, because that movie's like. It's one of those where the movie's like fine, but it's a drama and like the acting's like really on par. And so like it's not the most fun to like talk about.
Yes, exactly.
So we decided that was the one that we decided not to do those types of movies anymore. And is it just me, or is Benedict Cumberbatch? I'm trying to think, like, it seems like as time goes on, and I remember us saying this in Black Mass, it seems like he's looking less and less weird. Is that just because we're getting used to him?
Yeah.
Because have you noticed?
He's a strange-looking fellow.
He's a weird-looking guy, but like, I remember talking about it in Black Mass how he's like, you're like, yeah, he's not that bad looking. But before, he's just weird. He's just kind of a strange-looking dude.
I think it has to do with, it might have a lot to do with his hairstyle. And,
maybe.
There are, because I see him, I think a lot of people are really familiar with him because of the BBC Sherlock.
Sherlock, yes.
And I think that there are even differences on that show between when his hair is completely out of control and like when he's got it combed and he looks different. There's a different look about him, and he had that for most of the movie this time around.
He did. And so he looks like on point, and that's pretty neat. Like, I think it's interesting that he has this look about him that's very unique, but it's kind of a weird unique, yet it seems to be working for him. Like in these movies.
I mean, this is and we always knew. I mean, there was always a discussion about who this guy has to play a superhero. And who's it going to be? And Doctor Strange absolutely makes the most amount of sense.
Oh, yeah.
For Cumberbatch.
Oh, yeah. Next up we have here is Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's right, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I learned how to say it in an earlier podcast, and I have been preaching it to everybody. Chiwetel Ejiofor. I could say it over and over again. As Mordo.
Okay.
And if you want to see
character
him,
here.
If you want to see him get knocked the heck out, you can watch Four Brothers. And then if you want to see him get knocked out by Marky Mark, You just go ahead and watch Four Brothers. He was also an inside man in The Martian.
Yeah, he was also, he played an awesome villain in Serenity.
Yes. Who is very similar to this character, it seems like, to me.
It is. There are some subtle differences that I wanted to go into because this is it's almost understated, but Mordo is a significant character in the Doctor Strange universe.
Yes, he is.
So I'll get into that.
Yep. Rachel McAdams as Christine Palmer. She was in Mean Girls, Sherlock Holmes, and Southpaw. Benedict Wong as Wog, who he plays Marco Polo in the Netflix series. He was also in Prometheus and The Martian. This is one of those actors that just shows up and stuff. Like, he's always this side character in movies, but he's been in a lot of little movies, so it's kind of funny to see him in this one. Mads Mikkelsen as, Caecilius?
Yeah.
He was in King Arthur, Casino Royale, and Clash of the Titans. Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. She was in Vanilla Sky, Constantine, and Snowpiercer. Did you ever watch Snowpiercer?
Yes. Snowpiercer is a really great movie.
It is just a fun little freaking, like, kind of an action thriller type movie. And it's like, it's so different from anything else I've seen. Like, there's no way for me to really compare it to anything else. So I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was on Netflix. I think everybody should give it a watch. Michael Stuhlbarg as Dr. Nicodemus West. He was in Boardwalk Empire, Men in Black 3, and Steve Jobs. Last but not least here is Benjamin Bratt as Jonathan Pangborn. Benjamin Bratt, man,
constantly confused with Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yes.
By a great many people. Yes. The actor known as Lou Diamond Phillips.
Oh man, you're not wrong on that. He is mistaken with Lou Diamond Phillips a lot. As a matter of fact, I mix him up a lot with Lou Diamond Phillips. I'm like, who's in that movie? Was that Lou Diamond Phillips?
It's almost never Lou Diamond Phillips.
No, it's almost.
It's always Benjamin Bratt.
He was in Demolition Man, which I watched recently. That movie is so good.
It is. It's fun. It's one of those guilty pleasures.
Oh yeah, it is a fun 90s action movie. It's just so good. Blood in, blood out, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I'd have to say that I can't even think of the last movie I've seen Benjamin Bratt in.
Well, we didn't see it. I saw him in. Oh, I'm blanking on the name. It was the Kevin Hart Ice Cube sequel.
Oh, Ride Along 2?
Ride Along 2,
He was in that.
Yeah. He's the bad guy. He's the bad Cuban.
Oh man. He just shows up in stuff and I'm really confused about him sometimes. Because he shows up in some crap, man.
The character Jonathan Pangborn, maybe this isn't the time to talk about it, but I mean it's a bit of a confusing thing to have this character in the movie.
We'll probably get into that later.
Okay, all right.
So let's go ahead and take a break here, and we'll go ahead and get into the quirks and likes of this movie.
All right.
All right, Jones. Now we're back for our quirks and likes section. You, sir, are supposed to be ready here.
Okay, I'm ready.
I like how
I wish we could tell everyone what was so damn funny.
A very random joke. All right, whatever.
Oh, my thing over here is just popping red. My software is really not happy. All right.
Oh man. Anyway, we have our quirks and likes section here. Let's start with my quirks. I didn't have a lot of quirks with this movie. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I knew very little about Doctor Strange. And so seeing kind of coming in, this is the first Marvel movie I came in with such little knowledge of this character. So it was really fun to kind of experience it that way. So I'm curious how accurate this portrayal is. But the first complaint I have, which is a really small one, and like all of mine are just really nitpicky things, is I think that this character Mordo, who is a really big character, like you were saying earlier, in the Doctor Strange like universe or whatever. The problem I have with him is I feel like we should have got a little bit more with him. It seems like his character is very similar to like this Serenity character that he played years before. He's almost like this zealot, but not really. You know what I mean? And so he clearly has a very strong opinion on how things are supposed to work out. And I really wish we could have got more about him. Maybe in the next one we'll get more into him, because clearly when you watch like the end credits, you can tell that he's leading down, he leaves Doctor Strange at the end of the movie. And when you listen to after the end credits, he finds Benjamin Bratt and takes his power away from him. And I just wanted to get like more information from him, and he's going to be a major part of this one, and I hope that he's a huge part of the next movie. But I felt like I needed to get more info from him, because you kind of don't get all that you need.
I mean, they're friends in this movie, which I thought was really interesting, because that potentially builds them up to be really complicated enemies in the films to follow. And would he side with someone like Dormammu when he comes back? And so, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, Mordor in this one, we really don't get, I think, enough of him.
No, we don't.
And I kind of felt that way about having the villains be who they were, and like introducing Dormammu into this film, because these are serious, big time bad guys.
Yes.
In Doctor Strange and in the Marvel universe here, to just sort of have a little wink at. I mean, I thought it was interesting that I felt they really swung with the fences with all the different little characters that they had here.
Yeah.
But I think the point is they aren't little characters. I mean, these are guys who should be sharing like equal screen time and getting their own movies where they challenge Doctor Strange. So I don't know if that's where they're going to go with it, but you do bring up a good...
That's what I was hoping, is that in the next one they'll get into that.
Fundamentally, he has an issue, and I think that they started to show that, especially at the end, where in the comic books, I mean, he goes and strips Pangborn of his abilities. It seems weird to me that wouldn't have been in the movie to begin with, in the actual regular movie, because that says more about his character than I think him just walking away. And obviously he hasn't just walked away. He's making decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
About who has powers.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an interesting character, and I mean he's a bad guy. He becomes Baron Mordo, and he ends up becoming a big issue for Doctor Strange to deal with.
He does. The only other quirk I have here, and I'll turn it on to you, is there are certain scenes that really kind of annoyed me with like how it just kind of cut too quickly. And the one I'm talking about specifically, and this deals with how the pacing's kind of weird at times, but like the scene I'm talking about is when right before he's talking, Doctor Strange is talking to Mordo, and he's like, I can't do this without you. He kind of he has this weird moment, and then they both jump in. And it's like that scene in particular just really annoys me. There was never really a good transition there. It just kind of just happened. And there's a lot of little scenes like that throughout this movie where it seems like there should be a little more time spent to help transition into the next scene, and it just happens instantly, which is a really strange thing to do for this movie. And it's like I said, my quirks are really nitpicky. So like, what do you got, man? That's all I have.
Okay, so the big thing is, and we're talking about character development here.
Yes.
Stephen Strange is a huge dick at the beginning of this movie, and I felt like he almost was to the point where he wasn't really sympathetic, and I felt like maybe they pushed it too far for him to come back.
I could see that. The thing about when I was watching this, I totally agree with you. But for me, I thought they kept that line like right at the edge, like so it was just enough to where he could come back. But you're thinking they might have pushed too far.
I mean, yes, and I think the thing maybe where so much starts happening once he meets up with the Ancient One and he enters the sanctum, that he has a tough time of it, and sometimes it's tough to sympathize with people who are in pain, and he's dealing with a lot of things that they're hinting at, but they're not necessarily saying. I mean, yes. I think he's got PTSD, and he's having issues coping with the fact that he can't ever go back to this life.
Yes.
Anymore. And so he should be more sympathetic, but he just was such an ass. And, I think maybe just the one scene that maybe helps save him is that you see that he's been sending emails.
Yes.
To Christine.
That is the one.
She hasn't, yeah.
That is definitely really the storyline in general with Doctor Strange and Christine, I think, is what makes him more sympathetic. He's been sending the emails, he's trying to reconcile with her, but he was really inappropriate with her. So like it makes perfect sense that she just doesn't want to talk to him, because she did all this stuff for him. There's so many scenes of her taking care of him during this really hard time in his life. And he was just like such an asshole to her. So like it makes so much sense that she wouldn't be replying back to those. And I think that it was a lot of those little scenes with the watch was also the thing that I just really enjoyed with trying to gain more sympathy for this character. You're trying to figure out why the heck would he fight for this watch.
Yes,
it's just a watch.
Right.
He's lost everything. What's wrong with this last thing? But you realize that it was the thing that was given to him from Christine. And that storyline starts at almost at the very beginning of the movie and goes all the way through to the very end. Yeah. And I thought that was just a great part of that. And that's what you're talking about now is what makes him, the scene that helps him become sympathetic. Right.
And the watch is a really good thing. So, I mean, at some point watching this movie, I felt like, okay, it's fine, and I moved past it. But really, while it was going on, I was like, oh, this is, especially when you think about the first Iron Man movie, because Tony Stark, he's a really polarizing character too, and he's very self-evolved, but he's likable at the start of that movie. But he does have a journey that he has to go through.
Yes. The thing about the difference, there's a similarity between these two characters when it comes to how narcissistic they are. The difference is Tony Stark has quite a bit of a charm to him that kind of lets you let it go,
Yes, right.
As opposed to Doctor Strange, who is just like such a dick. He's just like, he just comes off like an asshole, and you're totally right on that. That's just how he comes off, and that's the other thing that I was thinking about, because like I said, this character I know the least amount about, and so trying to figure out whether is this part of his character, I don't know. if that's how he's supposed to be. Tony Stark has always been an arrogant, like, narcissistic character. That's how he is. That's part of his story. But I didn't know if that was a part of Doctor Strange. But I really did enjoy his version of it. It's like such a different character from all the others.
It is.
Which is really good because we're getting into this large cinematic universe and all these characters have to come together eventually. And they all definitely have a different attitude to them. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens when you start putting all these characters together.
And, once you see this movie, you see why Doctor Strange is so vital to the MCU. There's just no way they're going to be able to fight what needs to come without him. I mean, he's far more powerful than the other Avengers.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see where they collide because it seems like he's already going to have a cameo in the upcoming Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok movie, which is already slated to have the Hulk, and it seems like it's going to be much bigger than the other Thor movies.
Okay,
standalone movies. I had an issue with Calicius and his motivation in this movie.
Oh, because
Caecilius. Yeah, I always have an issue with him. They mentioned that he lost his family.
Yes.
There's a missing connection for me because the reason why he would even talk about bringing in the dark dimension and being free from pain and death, his true motivation is reuniting with his wife and his son, and that never gets actually explained. I kept waiting for him to say it. And it's something that you have to assume because they mentioned that his family died and that's why he sought the Ancient One.
Yes.
There's something missing, and it was either something that got edited out. Maybe they felt like it didn't need to happen, but it's a huge motivation for the villain to be reunited with his wife and kids. And I know for a fact that is his driving goal. And this is totally MIA.
That's so strange because I remember them mentioning that in passing, but I totally forgot about that story line entirely. So you make a really good point in that. So my thing is that maybe they were thinking that would make it a little too sympathetic for the villain.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, and that's fair and everything, but I mean, there's kind of a funny part where Strange says, "Look at you," man. I mean, there's just take one look at you, and you know that this isn't right. Look what it's freaking done to you. There's just no way, Dormammu. Right?
Which is such a funny thing, and it's great. And he never blinks. It's right.
It's like he's never looked in a mirror before, but he's got to know. He's got to know Strange is right there.
I just remember that scene, thinking the whole time, this guy never blinks. And I remember even before Doctor Strange said anything, he does this really long blink, like they were in a staring contest the whole time. And so he does this really long blink, and then he's just like, "But look at your face, man." This can't be a good thing. And so I thought that was such an interesting little thing that they tossed into that movie. It's pretty funny.
So just sticking with this character though, and so that missing connection, I think, is a real big thing. I this isn't a guy who's just out of his mind. I mean, there's, if he's made contact with Dormammu, there's some reason for him to believe that this could be the right thing to do. And he's desperate. The pages he took were really based around the Eye of Agamemnon, which they don't quite get into.
No.
But it had to deal with time.
Yes.
And so I believe this is the last missing Infinity Stone.
Yes, it is.
And so how it, obviously they've talked a lot about Infinity Stones, but how all these things work when they're configured together is that Thanos, when he has them all in the glove, he basically becomes a master over death. Yes. And a big key to that is him being able to control time.
Yes.
Because that gives you the ability to undo so many things, and it also gives you the ability to live endlessly.
Yes.
So the eye is hugely significant, and I thought it was really strange that these characters, the bad guys, and his goons, which are actually known as the Zealots, and they don't ever get introduced as that. So I thought that was sort of a big thing that they didn't actually get that name.
I definitely remember them mentioning the Zealots, but they didn't. They said it as like they didn't say it as a group. They said it as like, oh, they're Zealots. It wasn't like
they're Zealots,
these are these Zealots. Yeah, that's the thing. But I mean, that's the thing that happens with those characters, with all of those bad, like all the villains. And I really feel like I definitely agree with you when you're saying that it's probably scenes that were cut out, because they definitely mention it in passing, and it makes more sense that they would get more into it. It almost seems like some of this was probably cut for time or something like that, and that they figure that they didn't quite need it. You know, it's like, well, do we really need to add this thing for Caecilius because it makes you more sympathetic for him, and we need to spend time making people feel more sympathetic to Doctor Strange because he's an asshole.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's true. And that has to happen. So maybe we have to cut this here. But
I just felt like, you know, they're showing, and I mean, this is another thing too. There are 3 seals in Hong Kong, London, and New York.
Yes.
And they don't explain really how those things are seals, but basically it was Agamotto who set those up.
Yes.
And yet there are all these relics inside, which I kind of get that not, you know, it's not like anyone can just use them, but yes. The fact that Doctor Strange is basically a novice, and that the Eye of Agamotto works for him, and that the Cloak of Levitation chooses him, should have been a huge tip-off that he's next in line to be Sorcerer Supreme.
Yes.
And I felt like the Ancient One wasn't really recognizing him as that in the beginning, but that Mordo was. So there's just little things like that really sort of bother me, because the Ancient One already knows that Strange is with her when she dies.
Yes.
That she can't see past that moment, but she can see his future.
Yeah.
So obviously her time is up when, you know, she's looking at basically the world may be coming to an end.
Yeah, so she can't see past that moment, but she can see like different versions of his future. She said it some way like that.
Right, yeah. His possibilities.
Yeah.
I wish that there would have been a little bit of exposition around the Eye of Agamotto and the Cloak of Levitation. Okay. And maybe that doesn't confuse me, but I wonder if it confuses other people. And I mean, they do explain that the Eye is an Infinity Stone.
Yes.
But really, you know, the how and everything sort of gets glossed over. And there's one line that the Ancient One says that, you know, stop questioning everything. And I felt like that was a bit of a cop-out to not explain some of the mystical things that were happening in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
For example, like how the spells work. You know, visually you see them working, but, you know, is it a certain spell? I mean, it's nothing really gets named.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's an issue or not. You know, I guess it's cool to see him kick ass with spells and using a whip and everything. But, you know, how do the bad guys have certain abilities like, you know, spears?
Yes.
You know, and he doesn't. You know, I mean, I guess that's just some stuff that I would like to know about that they just don't get into. I would
like to know about that too, because I thought from a visual standpoint it was an interesting way to convey that they're doing different spells. Like, clearly their spears were like these weird, like, almost like, they almost seem like clear icicle type things. You know what I mean? Like these long, it's hard to explain it because it's like it almost looks like a mirror, but it has this like ice look to it, and they're kind of see-through. So it was like such a different look, and all of the zealots and everybody were using those, as opposed to everybody like Doctor Strange. They weren't. They were using more of the like fiery sparkle, like sparks type things.
Yeah, like a whip and
like the
a
whip
shield.
and shields.
Yeah. So, well, okay. I guess this is a good spot to talk about likes.
All right, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So for the likes, I guess since we're already talking about it, I thought the visuals were like just on point on this movie. This movie was visually like just all the effects were just so damn cool. I thought, even though I thought this scene ran a little long, but the scene where she was explaining all the different universes that were going on, and just like all those visuals, somebody had to come up with like an idea to do all these parallel type universes, and every single one looked so different and ridiculous and crazy, and so it was a really cool thing. I really enjoyed the way they drew out the spells, how that looked. I liked the fact that they had the different versions of between the zealots and the and like the guys with Doctor Strange or whatever. So they have the sparkly thing, and then they have the clear thing. All of the changing structures and everything was just fantastic, and it just made it just like a really creative way to get like some of this stuff going. Just like the fight scene where they go in, where Doctor Strange puts them in the mirror universe and realizes that was a huge freaking mistake.
Right, because he's trapped in there with them.
Because he's trapped in there with them. But like that whole sequence was just so much fun to watch. Like everything twisting and turning, and like gravity was changing, and like a lot of that stuff happened a lot in this movie, including towards the end when they had to like reverse everything. It was just like so, like the visuals were just so good, which is why I really enjoyed looking at the credits at the end of the movie and seeing the ridiculous block of digital artists and CG artists working on this, because you would need all those freaking people to get something like this done. It's just absolutely ridiculous how much effort they put in to making this visually interesting. I have to say, probably one of my favorite scenes was the astral projection fight. Man, did I love that sequence where he finally goes to the hospital with Christine, and he astral projects himself, and the other guy astral projects himself, and they start a fight. And it's like the weirdest, like all this crap is happening around her, and it's like they're only interacting with certain things. And so it's just like, she's just like, what the hell? Like that whole sequence was just such a fun little thing, which brings me to another good point to this movie, is like there was a lot of just fun scenes in this movie. Marvel sure does know how to make a serious movie with some fun shit in it. They are so good at this. It is absolutely insane how good they are at doing this. They have it like mastered. I don't know how they do it, but it's exactly how it should be. So like there's a lot of serious stuff going on, but they know how to break it with all these funny things that happens throughout the movie. It's just, they did that a lot, and it was just so much fun. I really liked the character of Doctor Strange. I thought, again, this is like, I don't know much about Doctor Strange, but a lot of everything makes sense with him. So all the stuff and how he's really arrogant, and how he's a scientist, and how he's struggling to deal with all this mystic stuff, it makes so much sense that he would have so much trouble figuring this stuff out. And the fact that he had to open his mind and figure everything out. And it was basically all of this, his personality is a cause of a lot of the issues in this movie. And he grows as a character throughout the entire movie. So I thought that was just fantastic. The only other thing I have a couple more things. One of them is I want to say that I think it was, I can't remember which movie it was. It might have been X-Men, but we were all both talking about, this is like has nothing to do with the actual movie, but we were talking about how Marvel Studios like changed their logo.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, at the beginning of this movie, they brought back like the Super 3D and then added all the stuff for the Marvel Cinematic Universe throughout, which was just a really cool thing. I was just like, all right. They fixed it.
Mm-hmm. They had a reason for going to that logo, and I think it had to do with the large format theaters. But this movie kicked off with these incredible stills from comic book movies, which they had sort of dropped, but they're even more clearer now. And then it transitions in the shots from the movies, and you just see how much work that they've actually done.
Yep.
And it's just really cool watching that damn logo.
Really cool watching the logo. Like, we were like, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which movie it was, because we were definitely talking about it with Mark. And it was like, we're all concerned, like, they changed their logo, but I want them to go back to like the 3D with the pictures so we can see like the comics and stuff. And they merged it perfectly in this one. So like they can keep that one. That's great.
Yes.
I like what they did with that.
They'll probably have that one for a while.
Right? That was just fantastic.
If anything, they'll add characters to it. But
right?
It's
it was a really cool thing.
It's got to be the coolest way to start a movie across the board.
Yep, and I remember even in the theater, I was just like, oh my, all right.
Yeah. Okay. Good movie to have to roll that one out for, too. Because not a lot of people know about Doctor Strange.
Yep, it was so perfectly done. I thought that was great. The last thing I have is just a weird comment that I enjoyed that the movie was basically a PSA for distracted driving. All right.
Good call there. Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, yes, definitely. I would argue that the visuals are so insanely incredible that it's worth seeing in theaters, because I just don't know of any other way to experience it without having a super big ass screen in front of your face to soak it all in.
You are definitely correct. There's no way that you will get the same experience with these visuals on a smaller screen. It's kind of like how when you watch Star Trek Beyond, and that you realize that idea is ridiculous, and and it's the Enterprise is going through, and then everything just starts blowing the hell up, and you're just like, this visual effect is freaking amazing.
Riding a wave with sound in space.
Oh yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. It's very similar to that. You watch that at home, it's not the same.
No,
but it is still awesome. Yeah, it can't be.
So I agree with you. The Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange is really cool, and I think they have the right guy playing it. I overall I had so many little things that I liked about this. And so here's one that I'm sort of on the fence about, but I thought it was really clever, and that is how this movie ended, because it didn't end with bad guys dying.
No.
But Doctor Strange outwits the bad guys at the end of this movie.
Yes, he does.
He shows that his advantage is really his intellect, because he absolutely tricks Dormammu, and we're sort of denied. It's a different battle. It's almost like a chess battle between him and a villain. Really a big bad villain that he knows nothing about, but he knows that he can't fight him head on.
Yes.
And so the depiction of that particular guy I thought was a little weird, because I'm used to seeing him in corporeal form.
Yes, that's usually what he looks like.
But
I think I have to agree with you in that sequence, and that's another thing I really enjoyed about the way this movie ends, is because it's also a progression of his character. Because, like you said, you realize he's very intellectual. Like he's outwitting this guy. It's not just that, but it's also like his personality alone. He uses it as his strength. So like his stubbornness, he's clearly a stubborn son of a bitch through the whole movie, right?
Yeah.
And you know that he has a lot of persistence, and you gain that more. Like it was kind of hindering him throughout this movie, but as he learned how to use it to positively, he was able to save Earth by using his like stubbornness and like his like, I could do this forever. I can do it forever. It doesn't matter. And as long as everybody is safe. And so there's a huge progression of the character during that sequence also. It's just great. So just well done.
Yeah, and you know, I almost felt like there was enough fighting early on to where a little bit of me wanted to see these zealots get it at the end of the movie, but what they're facing is so much worse. And I thought it was it's on point with the character. He has an issue with taking lives.
Yes.
And that's really the polarizing thing between him and Baron.
Yes.
Mordo is going to be this fact. And you know, the discussion is had, you know, even if it saves the planet, even if it keeps us safe, you won't do that. And he obviously has reservations about doing it because one of the bad guys does die, you know, yes, but he had to do it. Yeah, he had to do it to save his own life. But as he passes him, he checks to see if there's a pulse.
Yes, to see if he's still alive.
And of course, there is none. So I think that they stayed really true to Stephen Strange's character. And I liked how they handled this ending because it isn't, you know, it isn't open and shut. Dormammu will be back. There's no way that character doesn't return, and he's probably going to really have a chip on his shoulder for having to agree to this with Strange. So it isn't going to be. It isn't like really we could see both of those two bad guys again. It's kind of interesting how they handled the ending. So overall, I thought the character progression was pretty good, and I was able to get past how they started him, but I felt it was going to be a really tough road for Stephen Strange to come back, and eventually all the training sequences and you know how he's struggling to work with his hands the entire time. I think he does. I think they do have him come back.
He does.
So I really want to see another one. I kind of hope he's in Thor because that's, I believe, the next movie.
Yeah, I think so.
We have coming up.
It's either Thor or Black Panther because they're both the same year, I think. I can't remember which one comes first, but I believe they're both 2017.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's not till November, so I guess I thought it was sooner than that.
No, so it's a year from now. Then.
Yeah. Which is good. They're going to need that time from the sounds of it.
Oh yeah. They're going to need it.
All right. That's it for me as far as likes. I think you covered a lot of mine too, buddy.
All right, so let's rate this thing. So I think it's fun. It's visually pleasing. I think the progression of the characters and the way the plot goes is really good, and I really just can't wait for the next one. Like when I left the theater, I really wanted more of Doctor Strange, which who would have thought that would be a thing, right? So I'm going to say see it, buy it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say see it, buy it too.
All right.
I think it's better than, you know, I think it's really up there.
It's high on Marvel's list.
Yeah.
And they've been doing so many great movies.
They have, and I wasn't really and it's pretty obvious, I was not a huge fan of Ant-Man. I thought there were too many issues with that damn movie. But this one has something that I think a lot of them don't have, and it's easily watchable multiple times. And
yes.
I think that's the thing when I think about adding to this already huge movie collection.
Oh yeah.
That I have, is it watchable, multiple times, like Civil War and the first two Iron Man movies are. Mm-hmm. And I think the second Captain America movie, which I think is Winter Soldier is probably the best one that they've done. But
Winter Soldier is very good.
It's tough to rank them all, but I think Doctor Strange is really up there.
Oh yeah, I think it's up there also.
Be interesting to look at the whole list.
Oh yeah,
and
God, they've had so many movies.
Yeah, maybe we could touch on that on the next one if there's time. I wouldn't mind ranking some, like just doing our personal like top 5.
All right.
Our personal top 5.
All right.
All right.
I guess we'll just sign out then. We are running really long, so
next week.
If anyone wants to contact us, we always have our website at halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
Rate us on iTunes and Google Play.
We're on Stitcher and Libsyn. Ooh, my girlfriend's on Libsyn.
Nice. Email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening and thank you for your support. Next week we have the Fantastic Beast and where to find them.
I know where to find him.
So we're gonna get that movie in. So that'll be a fun one to watch.
And then, do we have Rogue One? Do we have Rogue One yet?
No.
Damn it. Hold on, stop.
No.
Hold on, stop. Yes, no, can we just green light? Is it in now?
How about now? You still got a while for Rogue One.
Damn it. No, Graham, great. Don't you tell me that. Don't you tell me that. I'm way too amped up here.
Oh, wow.
Ooh. Rogue One.
This is the Half Fast Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy. Damn it. Oh, give me another shot. Put me in, coach. I'll throw strikes.
This is the Half Fast Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.
I nailed it. I nailed it.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Waters.